Welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. In this video, we are talking about the happiest car on sale, the Volkswagen ID.4. In this video, we're kind of going to go through everything you want to know about it. We call these walkarounds or full tours, but really in the case of the ID.4, we're going to get pretty technical. And no driving in this video though. If you're curious about the driving impressions, I have a whole other video that's going to be like 45 minutes long, just talking about how this car drives on the highway, in the city, and in a mountain blast performance environment. So looking forward for you guys to see that. But for now, let's go through everything you need to know about the Volkswagen ID.4 First Edition. Now, the first edition that we're testing here kind of comes fully loaded, and it is, of course, the first to come to the US. So, rear-wheel drive only. We're going to go through all of the specs, the different trims, and everything like this, but I do have to start out by saying I truly believe this is the best value electric vehicle on sale. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack from Tesla owners and everyone about my love of the ID.4, but I truly think it is an exceptional value. So the base price for the large battery rear-wheel drive, like we're testing here, is $39,995. Now, you do have to add a $1,200 delivery and destination, so you're into this thing for, let's just say, $41 and a bit, and then you get 3 years of free charging at Electrify America, which can add up a lot if you're a road tripper like I am, and then you qualify for a $7,500 tax credit. So for low $30,000 range, say mid-30s by the time you pay taxes, you're getting yourself an electric SUV, tons of space, great personality, 250 miles of EPA rated range. Of course, we're going to have a video testing our own range test at 70 miles per hour. Stay tuned for that. And an overall good package. The thing with ID.4 is it's not exceptional in any category. It's not terrible in any category. It hits all of the marks, hits them well at an unbelievable price point. And like I said, it is the happiest car on sale. You cannot have a bad day driving this Volkswagen. Let's start at the front and let's go through some styling. First off, the first editions have this awesome, of course, LED headlights, but this light signature that comes across the front. This is the Volkswagen badge, as you know. On first editions, it is not lit. However, in future iterations, I guess they're working on a supplier deal or I don't know what it is, this will be backlit. Unfortunately, not for the early cars though. Then you sort of get this hexagonal shape all throughout and sort of a very pleasant look. You know, this car is not amazing looking, it's not terrible looking, it's just unoffensive and happy. So under here on the hood, let me pop the hood. Typically you would find a front trunk on EVs. That is not the case here with the Volkswagen. And people are really up in arms about this. I can't figure out why. I've owned many cars right now with front trunks. I honestly never use them. So everyone uses them a little differently, but honestly, I don't think this is a problem. You have your couple fluids you need to worry about. The main one is your washer fluid that you're going to top up. The rest is what they were able to do is stuff a lot of the power electronics, the air conditioning system, everything here under the hood. And then you can have a bigger cabin space. So while this car is about 4 inches shorter than Tiguan, it actually has more interior cargo room, which is quite interesting. Come around the side, we'll go on a quick tour. This one being the first edition, comes standard with 20-inch wheels. They're wrapped in Bridgestone Alenza all-season tires, sort of a sport all-season tire. 235/50 R20 is the tire size from the factory. You can see the first, denoting the first edition cars that are coming. Now the door handles are pretty interesting, so come in and let me show you these. So you go here and there's just a little pull tab, a little squeeze that you squeeze back here, and that opens the door. It's an electronic latch. No handles to pop out, no silly things like a Model 3 that drive me and all of my passengers nuts. This is really well thought out. So even more interesting than the door handles is the key situation. So come on in and take a look at this key. It's very simple. It gives you an alarm, lock, trunk, and unlock. And then of course the Volkswagen logo on the back. Take a look at this too. You have a built-in key that comes out and it actually wiggles. The reason is because the way it goes into the key, it has to go in on an angle and then it has to go into the bottom there at like a 45. So I've never seen that on a key before. Nicely designed. Also, the car will automatically unlock as you approach the vehicle and lock as you walk away. And even better than that is when you do unlock the car, it starts the climate control. So in the cold days that we've been having here in Colorado, I don't need to pull out my app on the phone, which this car does have an app we'll get into in a little bit, and then turn on the heat and send the signal to the car. I can just look out my window, click unlock, and then I know it's running the heater at full blast. It just saves time. Everything about this car saves time. So when you start approaching the car, it unlocks, climate control is on, you get in, you put your foot on the brake, and then it's on. I'll show you that when we go inside, but they've really thought about the true use case of a car and made it so easy to live with. Come around over here to the roof, you can see a silver accenting signature along the roof, along with these silver roof rails on the First Edition. This car just looks awesome, I think. Let's take a look at some backseat room. You can see door pockets big enough to hold my Starbucks drink, which is awesome. You can see here window switches in the rear. Everything feels nice. Now, in terms of material usage, it's not overly premium, a little bit of plasticky, but it's done in a very German, a very Volkswagen nice way. So I would say this car feels way more premium than a Model Y sitting inside, and we'll have videos comparing that coming up soon. So let me take a seat in the back. I'm sitting behind myself in a 6'1" seating position. Now you'll notice there's door pockets down here at the bottom. This one says the car has been sanitized by Volkswagen. Thank you very much. So you have little, not door pockets, seat pockets, and then you have a nice little cell phone holder right up here for both passengers. I think that's a really neat idea. Of course, you can move the front headrest for the front seat. There are vents in the rear, which is awesome. You wouldn't believe how many cars don't have rear vents, and you also have 2 USB-C ports for your rear passengers. Now, the Volkswagen ID.4 is not intended to compete with Model Y or Mustang Mach-E, which we are, of course, going to compare them to here in a bit. But you have to keep in mind, Volkswagen's going off after a Mazda CX-5, RAV4, Honda CR-V audience, not necessarily an electric audience, which I think is smart. So there's a couple things on here that, as an experienced EV owner, I don't necessarily love, such as one-pedal driving not being standard when you turn the car into drive, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Now, there should be a little kick to open function. There we go, it works. Just lags for a second. And then you are greeted with this awesome size trunk. Look, I really think this is the perfect size. The rear seats can fold down. You get ample underfloor storage as well. It goes all the way back to the end of the trunk. And you also have a ski pass through on the First Editions. Power open and close on Pro S trim and above. Volkswagen ID.4 is broken up into 4 trims and 1 package. Forgive me while I look at my notes just so I don't give you false information, but essentially you have Pro S with gradient package, which is more of a styling thing, 20-inch wheels, and then this First Edition. The all-wheel drive trims, of course, can go on all except First Edition. Quick little side clip because I wanted to add a couple more things in. This one, as tested being a First Edition, costs $43,995. That's before destination. So that's worth noting. A couple other interesting things. This one makes 201 horsepower, 229 pound-feet of torque. The whole motor assembly weighs 200 pounds. That includes the power electronics and gearbox, and it can fit into a duffel bag. Why you'd want to carry around the electric motor of your Volkswagen ID.4 in a duffel bag, I'm not sure, but you can. Also, interesting features that I didn't talk about in this video that I think are notable are if you have an accident or if an emergency occurs, you have an SOS button in the car. It will automatically call Volkswagen call center of some kind, and then they can send you help. That's really important. Let's see. Other than that, I think that's kind of everything other than the front collision warning. We talk about some of the safety systems, gives you an audible warning, a visual warning, and then of course it will slam on the brakes for you. If you're below 18 miles an hour and the car senses a collision, it's not going to give you all those warnings. It's just going to freak out, slam on the brakes, because at that low speed, it doesn't have the time to warn you. So I think that's pretty smart. Back to the main video. Let's talk about charging the Volkswagen ID.4. We have a J1772 port at the top, a little cover for the CCS connection down at the bottom. So AC charging this car, you can plug it into anything from a wall outlet up to a giant J1772 80 amp connection. The car can only take around 40 amps, though. It's 11 kilowatt onboard charger. I guess that's closer to 48 amp onboard charging. Plenty for home charging, seriously. You're going to pull in at home after driving a little bit and then charge it back up. Then there's also 2 DC pins here at the bottom to allow for 125 kilowatt peak speeds, although in our testing we've seen slightly over that. Keep an eye out for a future video where we charge this car from 0 to 100% and I go through all of the neat charging curves, why the car is doing certain things. Now, Volkswagen has an 80% limit that they recommend that you charge to on a daily basis, and I actually agree with this. This is is a car that's going to be used primarily for around town driving and the occasional road trip, right? So why full charge the battery and really stress it out? So Volkswagen says charge this thing to 80% every day. Honestly, if I had mine, I'd probably charge it a little bit less than that on a daily basis and then just bump it up for road trips. The battery is broken up into 288 pouch cells that are basically split into 12 modules to make the entire battery pack. The battery pack here is 82 kilowatt hour usable, 82 kilowatt hour gross, 77 kilowatt hours usable, weighs just over 1,080 pounds, so it's a serious brick, and it's located in the floor between the two axles, so your center of mass is really low. What that means is you don't necessarily need an overly stiff suspension to compensate for body roll like a lot of SUVs suffer from. This car is able to back off the dampers, which are adjustable by the way, have a really nice spring rate so that when you do start throwing it around, it's compliant, it's soft, it moves a little bit, rolls a bit, but it just means that your handling is uber predictable with a nearly 50-50 weight distribution right here. So I think the car is set up. You'll notice that in our driving reviews for sure. Now come on in and let's talk about the braking system. So the braking system will operate in two different modes. You have D and B mode, and we'll talk about that when we drive it too, but at least here I'm gonna go into it a bit. In regular drive, you get almost no regen, pretty much none. And that is because Volkswagen wants this car to be approachable and understandable for current combustion engine vehicle owners, such as CR-V, RAV4, CX-5, Mazda owners. However, there is a B mode that will allow for 0.13 G of regen, which is also quite a good amount, almost enough for one pedal driving. It'll bring you to about 3 miles an hour and then blend in acceleration torque for creep. So you do have to put your foot on the brake pedal to slow down to a stop. Now, when you do put your foot on the brake pedal, the regen is tuned to handle about 0.25 G of regen. So even in that one pedal B mode, when you touch the brake pedal, it will blend in more regen and then switch to friction brakes. So let's talk about those friction brakes that it'll blend to. Here on the rear wheel drive car, you have 13.4 inch rotors up front. All wheel drive ups you to 14. Let me just double check this really quick. 14.1 inch rotors on all-wheel drive, so larger brakes on all-wheel drive. And then in the rear, you actually have drums, which is an interesting decision, but actually my smart electric car has the same rear braking methodology, which is this car has so much regen, the only time you're really going to be using the friction brakes is in emergency stopping scenarios. So when you do need to slam on the brakes, a disc is not going to be necessarily clean or effective until you use them a couple times. They need to be cleaned out and warmed. A disc, or I should say a drum brake, is just ready to go all the time, and they are better for periods of unuse. So because this car is not a track car, you're not going to be thrashing it away. Drums in the rear, discs in the front. I agree with that decision. I've also, again, had this car up in the canyons and braking power was not a problem. Brake pedal feel is a problem. I think the brake pedal is a little bit too squishy on this car. I would like a firmer brake pedal, but again, that could just be because this is a press car and it gets thrashed around and the brake fluid could be basically boiled over. Now, up front here on the front tires, I'm going to show you right here, the turning radius is truly insane. It's a 33.5 foot curb-to-curb radius. The steering wheel itself is 3.5 turns lock to lock. So really quick steering ratio, but not overly quick like some of the Teslas. That is one of my largest complaints with Tesla vehicles. I think they do a lot of things well, which we'll get into here, that this car does not quite meet the mark on. But in terms of turning radius and steering ratio, this car has got it. And you can just see, as you're watching now, the car does turns in an unbelievably tight fashion. Let's go through some of the interior stuff on this car, but before we do that, I want to talk about range. So everyone's main concern with electric vehicles is how far can it go on a charge? The biggest question to me should not be that. I mean, I would say, for your daily driving, you don't really need that much range. At least a lot of people don't. I certainly don't. What I want to know is how is the road trip ability. So we're definitely going to take a road trip in this ID.4 at some point. So follow our Out of Spec Motoring channel, which is all about electric vehicle road trips and adventures. However, there has to be a relationship between the overall range of the vehicle at high speed, highway speed, and then the charging curve of the vehicle. So you need to be able to drive quickly, top up quickly and then drive quickly. And so this is where Taycan really succeeds as an EV, and so many others, and honestly where the Mustang Mach-E falls short. So that is, I should say, this car also has a 0.28 coefficient of drag, which is really quite good for an SUV. Let's go through some of the interior stuff. So we have a 5.3-inch driver instrument cluster here. As standard, you get a 10-inch screen, but this one, again, being the first edition, is the big one, which is a 12-inch screen called the Discover Pro Max. It has gesture control, so I can basically swipe page to page, as you can see here. But honestly, it barely works all the time. Like it's doing it now, which is good. Now it's not. It's a 2-finger swipe. Honestly, it's easier just to touch the screen and swipe it back to front. You can see it's a little laggy too. Honestly, I've lived with this car the last few days and it has been flawless. It hasn't gotten in the way, but certainly the graphics are just not fast. And that's crazy to me that Volkswagen would release a car to market today with this screen that's laggy. Now, personally, this wouldn't stop me from buying it. It wouldn't bug me at all. It hasn't bothered me at all this week. It's more of just a visual thing, but if you go slow with it, it will be fine. I'm sure this can get fixed through over-the-air software updates, which this car has to almost every module on the vehicle, so I'm really hoping to see this. This is what happens when a call comes in. Not sure who's calling, but we won't answer that right now. So that's what happens when you get a call. And please don't call that number on the screen when they called. We have ID Light, which is really neat. It's this strip of light that comes across the dashboard here. I'll try and insert a video of it. First off, it lights up red and blinks at you if you're about to crash into someone. It gives you directional changes. So if you're turning right at a traffic light, you'll get a swoosh of light across the dashboard here to the right. But also when it's plugged in, it displays car's state of charge. I think that's the neatest thing. You can kind of peek in and see how charged up you are. I love that feature. I think it's really great. This car does have like automatic parking and all that stuff. I haven't tested it, but you know, it does all that thing. And now you get your climate controls here. Really neat things. So you have your temperature left and right, which is a slide gesture here on the dash. You have your volume here in the middle, which really doesn't bug me at all. You just swipe it quick to the left and it mutes. And then you can, of course, do split zone climate or sync it to the driver's temperature. This is what's called classic climate. One of my problems with this is I've been getting in the morning and I just now set the heated seat to come on when I hit unlock, but I really want the heated steering wheel and heated seat on, which, by the way, are standard features on a less than $40,000 car before incentives. That's impressive. So what I do is I click the seat button and then you have to turn your heated seat on or off. It doesn't make sense why that's not just your heated seat button. Hopefully that gets fixed in a software update. 3 levels of heated steering wheel heating as well. It goes from mildly warm to burning your hands. Really awesome heated steering wheel. And then there's something called air care. And air care basically pressurizes the cabin, runs particulates through a really small filter of some kind and makes the air cleaner. That's really neat. And then you get this kind of quirky feature here of your air conditioning, which is not necessarily setting your temperature, but having the car adjust to what you want. For example, if you just want fresh air to come through, we can click that and it'll bring in fresh air. If we're starting to fog up, we can hit clear view and it'll take all of the moisture out of the air so our glass is defogged. If you want to warm your feet up or cool your feet down, I mean, this is a really neat feature I've never seen in a car before, and I really think that is quite impressive. Other features of this system, of course, are 3 different menu screens here. The first is sort of broken up into your efficiency. Please ignore our efficiency. I've been driving the car hard. It's not representative, but I will be doing some efficiency testing on this car. Then you get a sort of map display. You get car information here on the right. Some other things such as your telephone, and then you get like your real, settings and different apps that you can go into. It's really simple to use, really intuitive, and I like that this little button here is your home button. One of the best features about this car is how this car looks at night too. Beautiful ambient lighting. Here's what some of the ambient light adjustments. Again, 30 colors you can choose from. This color 1 adjusts the strip across the dash, like I mentioned. Color 2 adjusts behind the doors here. Take a look over here. You can see that it's blue. I'm going to change it to a salmonish color. There we go. Look, now we got a pretty tropical watermelon type vibe going on now. this is really neat. Secondly, you have these lights up here in the ceiling that get crazy, crazy bright. So Volkswagen's thought about this. If you just touch and hold, again, capacitive hold, and let off, they will stay at a dimmed position. I love this feature in cars. I think that's really great. And lastly, you can take a look here. We have navigation and travel assist on the screen. I can have it here set in the main instrument cluster to show both. I can swipe on the view button, left or right, and it will show me the directional side, it will show me back to center, or it'll show me a prioritized travel assist with the lanes. It even shows you cars in other lanes. It does not make lane changes for you, but take a look at how good that lane centering is. That is pretty sweet. You can set a mood that Volkswagen has pre-made for you, such as eternity, and it makes everything blue and green, and desire, and everything's blue and black, and it's pretty interesting. But then you can create your own, and there's 30 colors to choose from and 2 different zones of lighting. The first lighting zone is a light strip that goes across the dash, which is really prominent. The rest is ambient lighting here, like behind the door handles and all of these things, and that's really neat. So you can create your own. This one we created, which is purple up top and blue at the bottom. I think it gives it a nice, warm, pleasant vibe. My girlfriend set that one up, and I think it looks pretty good. Wireless CarPlay in this car, wired Android Auto as well. Really fantastic system. Honestly, you just get in the car and you use CarPlay, and it's totally fine. I don't think that this is an issue here in terms of snappiness of the infotainment. I would say I want to see it faster, but I'm okay if it's not. On the left-hand side here, we get our driver assistance controls, and you'll have to watch our city, highway, mountain drive of this car, the driving evaluation, to see how it works. But essentially, you can turn it on, you can set your speed, you can set your ID, traffic assist, I believe is what it's called, IQ drive, something like this. One of the ones for lane centering. And yeah, really, really good lane centering on the highway. Not amazing around town, but at least if you're just cruising up the highway, you put this thing on and you're going. One of the neat things about the system is the way that the car does driver monitoring system, DMS. And rather than using an eye tracking system or torque in the steering wheel sensor, it's actually a capacitive steering wheel. So all you need to do is touch the wheel. The capacitive touch of your hands tells the system that you're paying attention, and it'll stop bugging you to touch the steering wheel. Really nice system. You can run in normal cruise control or adaptive with lane centering. Driving normally, of course, you have lane departure warning, so it can buzz the wheel and push you back into your lane. Blind spot monitoring as well. Really good safety tech in this car. Front camera, front radar, 2 front rear radars, and 8 ultrasonic sensors around the car make the hardware suite to make all of this happen. Really cool. By the way, I love the steering wheel. I'm not sure what other people think about the white steering wheel and things, but it makes me feel like a next generation i3 type thing, and I love it. I would order mine in this almost exact color combo. I'd be between the white or the blue for exterior if I was to order one of these. Now, in terms of these buttons down below, I already mentioned the parking one and the climate. You also get different levels of fan effectiveness in auto mode. You can go with a moderate fan, a high fan, or in the case that I like, a very gentle breeze. You get your hazard light controls here in the center. All your entire daytime running lights on the front, our turn signals, look really nice. Then you get your assistance functionality, and this is neat that it breaks it up. So for example, if you want to know about your blind spot, you can click this, you can raise or lower your brightness. Like all Volkswagen Group products, you can see here in the mirror, it gives you an idea of how bright or dim your setting will be. I think setting 3 is totally fine. And then if you don't want to click this silly display about lanes, you can touch the lane side of things. And anyway, you just click the hamburger in the top right and you'll get all your settings. I've been having everything on. It's been staying out of my way. It hasn't been annoying, and it's been doing its job well. And again, I really think the safety tech on this car is truly fantastic. And then lastly, you get your driving modes over here on the right. You go from an eco mode to comfort to sport. This not only adjusts your throttle pedal and steering sensitivity, but also suspension comfort. You can see all of the things that it adjusts right here. I'll walk you through it. So you can have your suspension, your steering, your drivetrain calibration, your adaptive cruise control, excitedness, basically as hard as you want it to hit the accelerator pedal when the car in front of you moves. That's adjustable. Your light assist, which I don't really know what that is, to be honest. I should know what that is. I knew I wanted to look something up, but if you know what that is, comment down below. That's the one thing I don't know. And then you can set your climate control to a more eco or regular settings. So I've been driving in custom with everything set up the way I like it. Now in terms of the interior, the air vents do a really good job of reaching your face. There's no obstruction from there, so in terms of sitting here for a while, it's not like air vents in certain cars that are behind things. It's just easy to place. Boom, you put it right there and you get nice air right to where you want it to go. You also get these little card holder things in the front of this cup holder. This cup holder insert is removable. I'm sure they'll have other things that can go in here, but you can just have an open space. But for me, definitely like to have the cup holders installed. These armrests are adjustable in height and you can lock them in place wherever you want. I love this feature. I love the adjustability. And then of course you get a deep center armrest with 2 USB ports, a wireless charging pad. And if you're like me, just close that and it gives it a really nice clean look. You also get a little bit of, not necessarily storage, but a pass-through compartment underneath the center here. Now, one of my favorite features, as I said, this is the happiest car on sale, is the playful nature of this car. First off, the cabin is light and airy and premium and really happy. I really love sitting in this. The seats are extremely comfortable. It even has a massage function on these seats that will blow up air bladders up and down your back. It's not like a hot stone massage that you'd find in like an Audi A8, but it really good function on this car, and that's available on Pro S and up. I think any of the 12-way seats and up get the massage, which is, I'm having it right now. Very nice. Take a look at the pedals if you can. You have the brake pedal is a pause button. The accelerator pedal is a play. I love that so much. Only available in the First Edition, but if I bought anything but a First Edition, I'd have those retrofitted because those are just so cool. You know, this car has a personality like the Beetle does, and it's really quite fun. Above you, you can see a massive glass roof, absolutely huge. And one of the problems with glass roofs in a lot of cars are, you know, the automakers will say, well, it's tinted to have this much IR rejection and UV protection and all this stuff. And honestly, it's probably accurate, I don't know, but you can just slide this little button here, and if you take a look overhead, you can see this massive shade that's coming over and almost completely blocks out all of the light. So if you're not someone who likes a big roof, or you're driving through Death Valley, you close this shade right here and it lets in literally almost no light. It's a really great shade. So what I want to do is I want to have you guys come around to the door because there's some interesting things to talk about over here on this side, and then we'll go back out and finish this video up. Over here on the door, we have a couple interesting things. The first being you have a child lock on and off, and that unlocks and locks the rear doors and windows. Then you have your vehicle lock and unlock, and then you have your left-right mirror controls. You have the controls to fold them in. You just go all the way to the left and they'll fold in. And then you have your heated mirror setting, which is a really cool thing. And then you only have 2 window controls here. Now, I've been trying to get used to this because I actually think it's a neat idea to have a separate rear selection to control the rear windows. You can see here when I click rear, let me just make sure it's on, it's in the sun, there we go. Oh, the car is off, so it won't roll the windows down. So I've been trying to see if I could get used to this, and honestly, I haven't been able to over the last few days. I keep looking to roll down the rear window or the front window, but I had put it on rear previously. I think an update to this, which would be better, is when you hit rear, give me like a 10-second window to move the windows and then put it back to the front setting, because once you click rear, it stays on rear, and then I end up rolling down that window, and it just gets pretty confusing, to be honest. One last point I want to bring up before we end the video, which I think is an interesting FMVSS oddity, is these taillights are actually the base taillights. So in Europe, they get a really beautiful taillight, but it's not legally allowed in the US, which I think is a real shame. Now, this car is a First Edition, which means it has a little tow hitch on it. Let me grab my book. I'll tell you how much it can actually tow. And then, grabbing my book. So the all-wheel drives will be able to tow more weight than the front-wheel drive. So the all-wheel drive with the tow hitch can tow 2,700 pounds, which is respectable enough for like a jet ski or something like this. And then the First Edition here can tow 2,200 pounds. So I think that is, you know, pretty good in terms of towing capacity. Nothing that can compete with Model Y. Mustang Mach-E isn't even available with a tow hitch, and so I'm happy they give you at least, I would say, like a bike accessory hitch. The one last metric that I didn't mention when we were talking about charging that I should, and definitely watch our 0 to 100% charging video, is this car is rated at 38 minutes DC fast charging time from 5 to 80%. The car tries to keep the battery pack at 77 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. Doesn't matter if you're preconditioning for a fast charger or driving around town. 77 degrees Fahrenheit is the target temperature for battery pack, which will allow for 125 kilowatt fast charging. Now, on a 82 kilowatt hour battery pack with 77 kilowatt hours usable, 125 kilowatts isn't that much power, but what matters more than that is the curve. So we're going to look into that in that other video, so make sure you stay tuned, because I actually think this might be a pretty good road tripper. Plug-in charge on the MEB platform that this is built on is available in the future. So right now, you plug into an Electrify America station, you have to use the app to activate to use your 3 years of free charging for your ID.4. However, soon the plug-in charge will be available where you can just plug in the CCS connection and ideally it works. I will say I actually think it's the right decision for Volkswagen to hold off on plug-in charge technology, because based off of my experience with it on Mustang Mach-E, it's been having really weird charging errors midway through the session during plug-in charge. I think Volkswagen Group knew this, again, speculation, and that's why they left it off the ID.4 for a better user experience. So I guess on one hand, you got to fault them because they own the networks and the cars, but on the other hand, I think they're trying to make the user experience better, so they held off plug-in charge to begin with. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. Is this the best value EV on sale? Honestly, I don't know of another car you can buy brand new, mid $30,000 range, let's say 38, 39 grand for a maxed out like Pro S with gradient package, and be this happy, this personable, this great to drive. You'll see that in the other video. Personally, I'm blown away by this car. I love the value that it offers, and I think a couple things I'd love to see. So my want list really quick. I'd love to have navigational routing to DC fast chargers much better and more accurate. I tried to route to Raleigh, North Carolina from here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and the car said, hey, sorry, can't find any chargers. That's sort of unacceptable at this point, especially as, like I mentioned, Volkswagen owns Electrify America. They're under the same umbrella. This should all just work and integrate as smoothly as Tesla does. So this is a big miss. For me, it's not a problem because I can plan out my own routes, but this is a car meant for people new to electric cars. They need all the help they can get. So I really hope this is a primary focus in future software updates. Other things, I'd like to see the UI a little bit snappier. The all-wheel drive version of this that's coming will have 100 more horsepower, which will bring the acceleration up into fun levels. Right now, the car is quick enough to get around for your daily driving. It actually wows people when you floor it. You know, you can't listen to all these people that are like, you know, your 7.5, 8 seconds 0 to 60 is not fast enough. Truly, it's fine to get around town up to speed on the highway. Car does 100 miles an hour till it reaches its top speed limit. But the all-wheel drive version is going to be the one I'm most interested in because I like faster cars and bigger brakes and stuff like this. So let me know which version of the ID.4 you're most interested in. If you like it, I know you'll let me know if you hate it either way. And thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Thanks for sticking around too, because I know it was a long one. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.